In the 5th installment of WayForward's flagship series, Shantae and the Seven Sirens switches up the formula on this Metroidvania adventure. This title features a very irregular release schedule, with Part 1 of the game releasing exclusively for the service Apple Arcade on iOS on the 19th of September 2019, and Part 2 being released on the 28th of March 2020. It was later released in full on all current generation consoles of the time and PC on the 28th of May 2020, and most recently on PlayStation 5 on the 22nd of March 2022. While this game pulls the half-genie Shantae in a few new directions, the changes made feel like they have a positive influence on the overall gameplay experience and outweigh areas that feel lackluster in comparison. Shantae and the Seven Sirens take Shantae and her typical company outside of Scuttletown and within the borders of Paradise Island. The island is home to the town where the plot of the game is set up, Arena Town. Shantae was invited by the mayor of Arena Town along with a number of other half-genies hailing from different areas to host a half-genie festival in celebration of magical beings such as themselves. They and their families are invited to vacation on Paradise Island, expense-free if they agree to perform in a routine at the festival. The mayor then sets Shantae off to remind all the half-genies of their performance that night, giving players the chance to meet more half-genies for the first time in the series. Upon meeting all 5 of these new characters, they are shown on stage performing together and are quickly abducted, leaving the performance at a standstill. The game cuts to the next day, where Shantae expresses her concerns with those akin to her disappearing so suddenly, and concludes that it's up to her to take action to find out what's happening to them. Generally speaking, this is a pretty compelling setup. Unfortunately, the amount of time spent with the newly introduced half-genies feels like it was cut a bit short, and not much was learned about them as characters before they were taken away. It does, however, give Shantae a compelling reason to be so anxious to seek them out, as these are the first people like her that she has ever met before, and because of that, she's sure to take an interest in them. As things progress, more is learned about the island as Shantae gains access to new regions, and comfortably frequent checkpoints make sure a good job is done with the pacing of world building and the introduction of new characters. This does end up causing some returning characters to get more backseat spots in the cast, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it does make their inclusion to any extent feel slightly questionable. After the time the series spent with the previous installment half-genie hero, Shantae and the Seven Sirens shows the series returning to a Metroidvania style of gameplay, giving players the opportunity to fluidly explore the corners of Paradise Island. In terms of difficulty, the base version of Seven Sirens is not particularly hard, but with an update released on November 30th, 2021, other difficulty options have been added to tweak the experience to better suit the needs of those looking for a different playstyle. In addition to the base game, relabeled as Legacy Mode, there is Definitive Mode, a rebalanced version of the game made to be more difficult, and Beginner Mode, which gives Shantae unlimited health and increased strength. There are also 2 extra modes that make use of the new type of item found in Seven Sirens called Monster Cards. Full Deck Mode starts the game off with all monster cards unlocked, and Rule Breaker Mode allows the player to have 50 monster cards equipped at once, when normally only 3 monster cards can be equipped at a time. Typically, monster cards are found by defeating certain enemies and give Shantae new characteristics when equipped. For example, there is a monster card that can increase Shantae's crawl speed. Monster cards are an enjoyable extra collectible that have the ability to greatly assist in playthroughs and are a fun addition to Seven Sirens. As can be found in other Shantae games, a number of spells and upgrades can be bought at shops to give Shantae alternate means of attack and increase the speed and power of her primary attack, Hair Whipping. These can be bought with the game's currency gems, and most upgrades are able to be purchased with the number of gems collected naturally throughout the game, with little need for grinding unless the player is looking to fully upgrade all of the available spells. In the same way that is handled in previous Shantae installments, heart squids can be collected throughout the journey to increase Shantae's health. 4 must be collected and brought to a squidsmith in any one of the game's towns for a health increase to be applied, but the heart squids can be ignored entirely for the sake of increasing difficulty or speedrunning. Belly dancing in Seven Sirens is saved for half-genie abilities that are gained throughout the story that are largely used to impact the visible environment, but can also be used to damage enemies. Shantae is still able to transform into animals in this game, but the means of utilizing them is slightly different. Instead of belly dancing her way into an animal transformation like she would in other titles, once unlocked, the majority of her transformations can be triggered by meeting certain environmental requirements, such as dashing forward and clinging onto walls in her dash newt form, or pressing into soft ground with her gastro drill form. These transformations are very useful when traversing the overworld and are also necessary for getting to and defeating the namesake bosses of this game, the Sirens. This is an area of Seven Sirens that feels wildly disappointing. Unfortunately, the bosses featured are overall very unengaging and easy to battle against. As one of the only points of contention in this game, the boss fights hardly feel like a deal breaker for the overall enjoyment of Seven Sirens, but it's hard to ignore the dull and unfulfilling feeling that they leave moments after the battle is concluded. For the first time in the Shantae series, music composition is not spearheaded by the talented Jake Kaufman, who has worked closely with WayForward since the original Shantae game released for the Game Boy Color in 2002. Shantae and the Seven Sirens music composition is credited to 5 individuals: Professor Sakamoto, Mark Sparling, Maddie Lim, Gavin Allen, and Alexander Aniel. Any concerns that could be had with the changing composers are immediately put to rest, as this soundtrack is booming with life and comes nowhere close to disappointing. The instrumentation used feels incredibly natural, still having Middle Eastern influence as there has always been, and melodies typically carried by chiptune-based sounds, ranging from somber tracks like Tree Town Chief that give off an emotional air, to Laboratory that is aggressively energetic and exciting. This soundtrack is entertaining from start to finish. Featured in this soundtrack is a song called Rise and Shine Shantae, which plays during the series' first ever opening cinematic. This song is paired with visuals prepared by Studio Trigger, the Japanese animation studio known for works such as Kill la Kill and Promare. Looking at the 2021 art book released by WayForward, The Art of Shantae, storyboards can be seen of the beginning of the cinematic illustrated by series co-creator Matt Bozon, as well as Gengas showing Trigger stylization on a number of series characters. In the same art book, early concepts by Seven Sirens portrait artist Ko show off a different approach to Shantae's animal transformations, having the end of her hair take the form of several aquatic animals such as a jellyfish and a seahorse. For those with an interest in the Metroidvania genre, or those simply looking to break into it, this is a fantastic game to play. Aspects like a diverse range of difficulty and accompanying tracks with large amounts of replay value make this title extremely accessible. For as underwhelming as boss battles can be, they are a very minor speed bump on what is otherwise an incredibly enjoyable adventure. WayForward has once again delivered a great product, and whichever direction they decide to take the Half Genie in next, I have full faith it will be one as lively as the ones that came before it.